Hello and welcome to today's stream. My name is Guy, of course, and thank you for all being here today. Now, of course, this is our new time slot that we've moved to, and today's show will only be an hour long. There are a lot of things we're rushing to catch up with, particularly the production of the Nautical Campaigns book. There's something possibly exciting happening there, other than us just releasing it. But, oh, something seems very... Whoa. Hello, there we go. Oh my goodness, yes. Audio all over the place. Sorry, I did not realize that. How's that? That volume should be better. I'm hoping that volume's better. Hopefully that volume is better. How is that volume for everybody? I hope it works out better. I've been adjusting microphone settings and things to try and make the show, to try and make the mic work better and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, all right. Well, we're not going to delay or dither or dally over the entire process. If you are new here today, as I believe we have some new people who have joined in, which is fantastic. There are a couple of things that we're going to be doing on today's show. Today we are going to be looking at the reveal of where Mama Sadook's treasure hunt might be. Now, if you remember, this is the poster that's been going around for a while. Mama Sadook's treasure. Now, you had to follow a treasure map in order to be able to find where the treasure was buried, and then you submitted your name. And so we got lots of submissions, and of those submissions, only 30 people managed to find where the treasure was hidden. Now, we're going to go through that a little bit today. We're also going to go through your questions and problems and challenges that you have had in terms of your role-playing games that are coming up over this next week and the weekend. When you do ask a question, please put the word question in front of it in caps lock so it stands out nice and loud like Honourable 596's question there. I will try and answer all of the questions that I can, but I do miss them sometimes, as there are sometimes lots of people asking lots of questions. So that is definitely something to bear in mind. Now, had a haircut, as they say. A haircut is as good as a holiday, which I'm looking forward to having one day. And, yes, let's get on with it. So, Mama Sadook's treasure. I'm going to walk you through... Well, actually, let me ask this question. How many of you are here watching for the reveal of Mama Sadook's treasure? Was it something that was exciting? Was it something that was interesting to do? We don't know. We kind of went, well, let's do this and let's see what's happening. If people are interested, if people aren't interested. So I see this a white tiger. Not me, definitely not me. Not me, says Honourable. Anybody? Is anybody here for the treasure? Sounds good, says Tim Deppen. Reveal, walk us through, says Treat. I enjoyed it and I'm here for it, says Tech Mind. All right, well, that's 3-2 as far as I'm concerned, so we're going to do it. Okay, so the treasure that went out. Tough. Yes, it was tough. Here is the map behind me, and I'm going to walk you through the clues as they popped up. So, question number one, or clue number one, was north of the siblings 3. So, if we zoom in here, north of the siblings 3. Well, there were only 3 siblings that were on the map, and that was the 3 sisters. So, we have to go north of the siblings 3. So, we start looking to the north, and then we get the second clue, which when I reveal is way to the north. So we go north and it says west of a real bay. Well, what's written underneath it is Folsom Bay. So if that's a Folsom Bay, we have to go west of that to look over here. It was a play on words. So now we go west using the cardinal points of north at the top of the map. From there we get to here. Hopeless leads south. So once we had found west of a real bay, and the only real bay that was there was a Folsom Bay, even though it is a real bay, we then get to Hopeless leads south, and that's the No Hope Mangroves. The No Hope Mangroves. Now, again, this entire treasure hunt was a case of looking at the clues and then looking for areas that satisfied the journey. But we also built in some fail-safes so that if you did get lost, you could always come back. So Hopeless leads south. So now we have to go south, and that leads us to Soon Wrecked West Ho. Soon wrecked? Well, soon wrecked, you would be wrecked upon the Shakan Reef, which is right here. So we go west again. The Shakan Reef is soon wrecked, so we go west ho, And West Ho takes us this way, which leads us to clue number 5. Safely high, look north. So Haven Hill. Haven being the safety part, high being the hill part. We now have to look north. And we're going to go north. And that's where we get to one of the ones that was really cryptic. Blood points the way. Do you notice how there's a little arrow point? There's an arrow point here on the blood. Blood points the way, so that's taking us diagonally this way, back down across the screen, and that leads us to Scale Nest, flee south. Now, Scale Nest was a little bit of a, if you don't watch the show, you shouldn't know what's going on. In the episode, we were talking about the lizard folk, the scaly lizard folk, and the capital of the scaly lizard folk, none other than Qualt Ux, Scale's Nest. Basically, so now we have to flee south. That takes us to number 8, which is Hulls Aware Rising Sun. Okay, now, Talshan Reef, Hulls Aware. We have to be aware of the hulls. Rising sun. What does rising sun mean? The sun rises in the east. So we must look east if that is where we are to go. Let me just see if there's anything in comments coming through. It's in the cupboard. Interesting in reveal, but not only reason. I couldn't figure out how to do the adventure. I couldn't find any of the clues. Okay, they were on the website. Didn't end up playing along. I have no idea if I'm right or not. Spent forever waffling and then submitted probably too late. I took the last submission. The last submission I took was 3 minutes before the stream started. So that was how late we left it to go. So let's go back here. All right, so Hulls Aware Rising Sun. So that means we need to go in this direction. And that leads us to this one over here. One is sad, mistakes made. One is sad, mistakes made. That's Con's folly. Now, one refers to Con. Con is the only individual there. Con's folly and mistakes made. Obviously, a folly is a mistake. So, one is sad, mistakes made. Now, that doesn't lead us anywhere until we get clue number 10, health short, look for answer. So, health short, look for answer. Health short, look for answer. Look for answer is the key here. Look for answer. There it is there. Answer. Answer is the name of the Elvish capital of Draswin. Answer. Answer is right there. Health short as in contracted. So we contract the word, so we look for answer, which is over there. And then, of course, that leads us to clue number 11, which is definitely a play. Almost fear no more. Fear no more, and that would bring us here to Fairwood. Fairwood Forest. Fairwood Forest. So we're almost there. Fear no more. We're in Fairwood Forest, and then the very last clue, which would have led you to the final point, because remember, you're always looking around. A lot of people got this last one wrong. No teak, empty tip. So, the teak was a reference to the wood. We're not in the wood. We're not in the teak. Teak is a type of wood. We're not in the wood. It's an empty tip, but this was also a rhyme. No teak, bleak. Teak and bleak. Empty tip, bleak point. Empty Point Island. So, if you answered Bleak Point Island was the location of Mama Sadook's treasure, then you are in the running for this amazing giveaway. So there you have it. That's how it played out. We tried to make sure that you could catch up at certain points, like Scale's Nest, for example. Look for answer or answer. So clues always get people confused. But, you know, this was a little bit of fun. It was just to get people involved. And well, for those of you that did manage to get it right, congratulations to you. I'm always nervous when doing these kinds of things, and this is definitely something that comes through when you are a game master or a dungeon master and you're trying to come up with some cryptic puzzle or some kind of cryptic clue. How difficult do you make it? So we tried to make it as easy as possible, and we tested out those clues beforehand, and some people got there. So that means we now go into the draw. Now, what is at stake here? Let's just go back to that map here. What's at stake? You've got, I'm going to use my thumb here. So first of all, we have this amazing, amazing giveaway from Dungeons and Dragons themselves. WotC have really come to the party, and they're giving away a complete set of the DMG, the PHB, and the Monsters Manual, and the Dungeon Master's screen. All of that, plus a special edition Ghosts of Saltmarsh book, plus a subscription to World Anvil, plus a subscription to Dungeon Fog, plus a subscription to Fantasy Grounds, as well as a module from Nerdarchy, and of course from us you will be given one of the complete guide to nautical campaign books when it's finally released. So there's so much, but we also said, you know what, let's do more than just that. So what Wizards of the Coast have done is they've given me one of the shiny copies. No. Two of the shiny copies. No. Three of the shiny copies? No. They have given me 4 of these copies. So we will be giving away to the winner the main prize, Mama Sadook's treasure, which is, I'm going to try and hold it up here and get that out of the way. It's this massive thing. It's going to, I have no idea how long it's going to take in the post, but this is the 4 books plus this book. So that's what you're getting in terms of physical stuff. And then you will get all of the codes for Dungeon Fog, for World Anvil, for Fantasy Grounds. It's really, 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 really cool. And everybody else, well, not everybody else, but 3 other people will each get a copy of Ghosts of Saltmarsh, which I think is very, very kind of Wizards of the Coast, very generous of them to do this. So let's get on to it. Winner number one of just the book Ghosts of Saltmarsh. And if you want me to write in this book, I'm happy to write in this book. So if you are a winner, I hope you're watching this. You have to be prepared. We will be sending you an email. That email will ask you for a whole bunch of things. Your residential address, a mobile or cell phone or landline telephone number, and of course, if you want anything specifically written in the book, what do you want written in the book? And I will write it in the book for you. So, for 1 copy of Ghosts of Saltmarsh, we now turn to our beloved Discord. There are the names. There are the 30 people. Here they are here, 1 through 30. Those are the potential winners. You can see the Discord server behind me. I type in roll 1d30, and here we go. The winner of the first book. Number 9. Benjamin Bradley. I will mark that so that I don't forget it. Benjamin Bradley. Congratulations to you, Benjamin Bradley. You have just won a copy of Ghosts of Saltmarsh, the special edition limited cover. I think it's absolutely stunning. So shiny. Winner number 2. And if Benjamin Bradley wins it again, we will roll again, just so that you know. Winner number 2. This is also for a copy of the Ghosts of Saltmarsh book. Let's try that again. Why did it do that? Worrell, 1d30. I am doing the right code. If it comes up with a 9 again, then I'm leaving. 15. That is Farin Kowalenko. Farin Kowalenko. Well done for that. Well done for that. Benjamin Bradley, you were obviously fated to have this. And then finally, for the third book. Number 20. Oh, hang on. Let me just do this first. Number 20. Class Lata. Or Class Latta. Well done. Hard copies are on their way. We will send you guys an email. We have all of your emails. That was part of the entry conditions. And we will be contacting you shortly. Now, for the last one. The big prize. everything. Everything. In other words, the one who found the treasure first, packed it up into their ship, and then sailed away, smiling, leaving but trinkets for the others. Well, trinkets, I mean, they're still pretty amazing things. This one is. And again, if it's a copy, it goes to somebody else. Here we go. The winner is number 22, Peter Holzner. Peter Holzner, you are our winner of Mama Sadook's giveaway. Everything goes through to you, sir. We will be in contact shortly so that you can be there. I am not sure. I see someone saying their name is not there. That's very strange. Every email that came through, we checked, double-checked on the entries. So, yes, Peter, well done to that. Congratulations to the winners. I thank everybody who participated. There were lots and lots and lots of entries that came through. I sat through them. We went through them. The Web Goblin went through them. And so those are our amazing winners. Watch out for those emails. They will be coming through to you pretty much after this broadcast, as a matter of fact, so we can get that rolling. Okay, now, there are many other things that we are going to be doing today. Yes, totally not jealous. I must admit, when we asked for prizes, Watsy said, yes, here's some prizes, and I went, well, can I have a copy too, since I'm giving them away? And they went, no, it's for people who actually entered the competition. So yes, well done to everybody who won. I applaud you. I thank you again. And so now, let's move on with our regular programming for live sessions with a GM. I've seen some questions coming through there. Let's repeat those questions, please. Repeat those questions so that I can see them coming through and we can start from there. So well done, and let's get going. So White Tiger straight out the gate says, question, a system I like has a really bad mechanic in it. How do I remove it without angering my players who abuse it? If you've already started the game, it's too late. You can do one of two things as far as I'm concerned. Either address this with your players. Simply tell them why you don't like it, tell them why you think it should be changed, and why it will make the game more entertaining, not only for them but for yourself as well. That's an important thing to bear in mind, I think, is when you look at rule mechanics and things that you don't like as the game master, always think about, well, if you change it, how will that change the fun for your players as well as for yourself? It's equally important. You mustn't just sacrifice your own enjoyment for your players. We're all involved in playing. We should all have fun. So the whole idea is, ask them if you can change it. Ask them how they would adjust it. Explain your situation. Have a look at it get an opinion from their perspective. Maybe they enjoy being overpowered, in which case then that's just the kind of narrative that you're playing. Again, ask yourself, are you happy to continue with that, or would you prefer to drop it? In which case then be honest with the players and say, hey, I think I'm actually going to stop playing the system. That would be my suggestion. Once you've decided upon the mechanic and you've decided to remove it, then you need to figure out how to remove it so that it remains balanced. Try and get into the idea, and there's this wonderful phrase of rules as intended, which is, what was the intention of the game designer in including that rule? What do you think they were trying to get out of it, rather than they just made a bad mechanic? Usually these mechanics have been tested multiple times, and, well, quite honestly, they have a reason for putting it in there. Very seldom are rules included and then they go, wow, it's just a rule, we don't like it, but it's in there. Very seldom does that happen. So that would be my suggestion. Okay, next question. Jackson Pettany says, I'm DMing a homebrewed LMOP, I don't know what that acronym is, so someone educate me please, with some younger players, and they get bored quickly. How do I keep them entertained? Well, Jackson, I think when it's younger players, the most important thing to bear in mind with younger players, and as a matter of fact, this is with most players, but listen to them. Don't try and tell them the story. Try and get them to engage and create the story as they go along. So with players, if they're saying, oh, I can't wait to fight the big bad troll, get them to the big bad troll. Don't try and play it out. Don't try and be all smart and smarmy and make sure that it only happens 3 adventures later. If they want to fight the big troll now, let them fight fight the big troll now. Then work out how to make an even bigger troll for them to fight later on, or give them the satisfaction of ending the adventure and the reward and then moving forward. So rather than having session-long spanning quests, have shorter quests, shorter goals that are easily achieved. The moment the guys start getting bored, try and break it up, or, and this is another suggestion depending on how young they are, have different kinds of challenges. So instead of we're going to roll dice for this challenge, say we're going to draw a picture for this challenge. Whoever's got the better looking picture is the one who's going to win. So in other words, you're breaking up the different types of engagement that you are asking of that particular player. This is something that I have very seldom done. I will raise my hand, but this is something that my mother, who teaches grade 2, does frequently, is you engage in the verbal skills, and then after a while you engage in the artistic skills, and then maybe the music skills, and then you get them to move. Never underestimate the power of saying, you are no longer, you've been mind swapped by the evil witch's spell, and so you have to sit over there and pretend to be you, and you have to sit over there and pretend to be you. So never underestimate getting people to move around as well. There's a lot of activity, there's a lot of energy that needs to be used up in those kinds of sessions. That would be my surface advice to you. I would then move it forward from there. So have a look at those options. Honorable 596 again says, do you have any advice for running a character who is just empty inside, or a character who doesn't have a soul? I thought of this character when you were going over the characters for the road trip through Avernus. A character who doesn't have a soul, how are they going to represent? And it does open up that wonderful can of worms of, well, what does the soul actually mean? Is the soul the definition of personality? If they don't have a soul, are they like the what do they call them in Dragon Age? The Tranquil? Are they just neutral? Are they monosyllabic? Are they neutral in tone? There's all those kinds of things that I think you have to really take into consideration, and then question, is that going to be entertaining to play for yourself for over an extended period of time? Are they trying to find their soul? Are they trying to get their soul back? Do they feel that there's a need for it? I think that there's a big line between playing a character that's engaging and entertaining for its own sake and playing a character that, after a while, is literally just going to get boring. So look at that. Look at that one. Right. Okay, next question that I see is from James Tension. I'm designing an RPG system, and I was hoping to pull from your experience with other systems. Any tips, suggestions, things you like? Well, James, to be perfectly honest with you, when designing a new role-playing system, and I have done this multiple times, as I have multiple role-playing systems that I've kind of written in the past. For my Patreon game, we're using a system that I've written called the Quick and Easy RP system. It's really simple, it's really straightforward, and if you have players who like complex builds and finding the benefits and bonuses of multi-classing or pulling from this or from that system is not going to appeal to them at all. So the bottom line is, what role-playing system will apply and will be of entertainment value to you as the person who arguably is going to be playing it? When one designs systems and things, you have to assume that there's only one person who's ever going to use the material that you're creating, and that's yourself. So if the material that you're creating doesn't speak to you as a dungeon master, as a game master, why would it speak to anybody else? You also have to realize, and this was something that we had to realize quite a long time ago when we were writing the book, Complete Guide to Nautical Campaigns, you can't please everybody, so the only person you can please is yourself. And if you're not pleased with what you produce as material, no one else will be either. So use that as your guideline. Next question is from Let's Go Ride Pandas. Do the pandas want to be ridden? How do you decide who will be the players in one of your campaigns? I'm sure that you have way too many people that want to participate than you need. Yes, I do. In fact, when I used to run games from home back in South Africa, I quite literally had a waiting list of people who were eager to join my table. It's one of the reasons why I started the channel, because I felt all those people should be running their own games, and it should be someone like myself queuing up to join their games. So how does one decide who should and should not play at your table? As far as I'm concerned, you've got to look at how they behave in real life. What are they like in conversation? When they are chatting and talking away, do you share similar ideals? Do you share similar outlooks or differing ones? What is the situation, and how does one handle that? So then you start to decide who and who should not be in your circle of role players, I think. And oftentimes it's a case of who's reliable, who is someone that you can trust to give you a good time, because ultimately, I mean, we're here to have fun and to play a game collectively. So if you find people that you just click with, you're going to stick with those people. Okay. Oh, Jackson, Lost Mines of Fandalvir. Well, the first adventure for me is very exciting for younger players, where you're dealing with the goblins. That can be a fun fest of note. The goblins, I would turn it on its head. Maybe the goblins start to want to have help from the PCs, and the PCs have to help them design all kinds of fun and funky traps and save frogs and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. I don't know. It really, again though, it's about engaging the kids and making sure they're being involved on all levels. Tim Deppen says, can you say anything about the Devils versus Demons activity with the new season? As a matter of fact, this week's Great Game Master video that will launch, I think on Wednesdays when it comes out, when that video launches, that entire video is about the Descent into Avernus book. It's an amazing book. The demons and devils thing. Just this morning I was looking at a mechanic whereby I want my demons to be more demonic than they currently are. When you delve into the Monsters Manual and you look at the history of demons, there's so much stuff there. But I think that the mechanics that Dungeons and Dragons has are too rigid to accurately describe how demons really would manifest. So I'm cogitating in my little head for this Saturday's game how I'm going to make my demons truly demonic, rather than just being giant monsters that are as flavorful as, say, any other demon or any other monster that's in the book. So I'll be doing that, but there is a video that's going to be dropping. I don't want to repeat what's in that video. There's a lot of stuff that's very interesting, and on the surface, when you look at demons and you look at devils in Dungeons and Dragons, they're very similar. Hierarchical structure, respect and desire of power, wants to corrupt humanity. Lots of things very similar, but when you start to go underneath, and when you start to look underneath all of that, you start to realize there's something much, much, much bigger and much, much, much more of a differentiator, I think, than at first meets the eye. So I go into all of that in this week's video. Writing Machine 123 says, I'm making my own races for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition in a homebrewed campaign. What is your advice for making your playable races well balanced, so one race isn't more powerful than the other? I have bat creatures that can fly and druidic creatures that can control organic matter. What's your advice? The advice I would give you is the advice that Wizards of the Coast gives one in the DMG, I think it is, where you are creating your own races. The way that they do races is usually they have one racially specific thing, something that the race is good at doing. So perhaps in the bat creature's case, it's flying. In the druidic creatures space, maybe it's control of certain types of organic matter. With the aquatic elves, for example, my homebrewed version of them, we said the aquatic elves have the ability to use certain spells like animal friendship, dominate animal, and that sort of thing. Certain number of times per day depending on the level of the character, but it was also restricted to specific animals. In the case of aquatic elves, it was specifically towards aquatic creatures. That makes more sense. So I think the biggest thing is to make sure that you stick to their guidelines. They should have a resistance or an armor class buff, limited to those kinds of things. And there is a huge risk of wanting to be more accurate for the race's representation than rule savvy. And unfortunately, what we have to bear in mind is that this is a game where the rules allow us to be able to create our narratives, not the other way around. So in order for everybody to have a good experience, in order for you not to have an OP and overpowered space, the important thing there is use the framework of the mechanics that are in place. If you don't like those mechanics, either rewrite them as homebrew or find a system which has mechanics that support what you want to do. So that is definitely what I would try to do. Okay, another question from James Tension. Are Bloodworn Ghosts of Saltmarsh canon to each other? Will we get a Snicked or Prime Water cameo? Well, let's just say that on Saturday we will be starting in Saltmarsh. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Stone Williams says, I'm creating a lore-reliant Lotro campaign, Lord of the Rings campaign. I have 2 big bads and a twist built in, but I'm having difficulty creating minor or engaging minor villains aside from orcs. How do you create fresh henchmen? Firstly, I would suggest that you head on over to World Anvil, where there are the templates that I created, Henchman, Villain, and Nemesis, so that you can sort of figure out where and what it is that you're trying to create, because it's 3 different layers. Henchmen definitely are the orcs. They're the few creatures that maybe have 1 or 2 speaking parts in the movie if you really want to break it down, but they are there to die. The villain is the one that's there for a little bit longer, a little bit more of a threat, and that would be Saruman, for example. He was a villain. And then the nemesis, of course, is Sauron himself. So breaking it into those levels might help you in terms of determining where you should be, but also think of henchmen, think of them as these bumps in the road. And how do you make each bump individual? Well, they may present different challenges to the party. Remember, henchmen don't just have to die through combat. Henchmen could die through social acts where the players discover a secret and then reveal that secret to an authority, which causes the henchman to be arrested and taken away to prison. So the way that you can make them different quickly is in how are the parties supposed to overcome them. Through combat, through social engagement, perhaps as a puzzle or a riddle that they need to put together to figure out, and then that causes the whole thing to collapse. So that would be one way to go. Xander the Green, are the Sharkana a playable race in the Nautical book? I remember you creating the race, but don't remember where you placed them. Yes, so in the Nautical book, which will be coming out as soon as humanly possible, there are 5 races that you can play. There is the Sharkan, that's the shark people. There are the Seabolds, which are kobold equivalents. There's the Aquatic Elves, there's the Merfolk, and then there's a completely homebrewed race called the Clawfane, which are kind of like a crustacean humanoid type of creature. They're asymmetrical, which I always quite like. Very different. They never featured in the Ghosts of Saltmarsh campaign. We just didn't have time to get around to exploring them properly. So there you go. That is the answer to that. They are definitely in as a playable race in the Nautical book. Grizzle says, my DM has revealed out of play that my character has a semi-sentient idea trapped in his head. The sort of thing that eventually develops into a god. Okay. This idea intrigues me, possibly going to try to pursue it. How might you use this sort of thing in your own story? An idea, a semi-sentient idea trapped in his head. That reminds me very much of the one true spell that was trapped in Rincewind's head in the Discworld series in the books The Colour of Magic and The Light Fantastic. I would slowly have this idea start to talk to the player, to the player character anyway, start to share its ideologies. If you look at it, there is that old idea that memes are really just viruses that want to perpetuate, and when they do, they get stronger and they evolve and they change over time, or mind worms as they call. They sort of get infected. So once one human has had this idea and they speak about it to somebody else, it's doubled, it's reproduced, and now it can grow from there and there and there. So maybe look at it from that perspective as well. I think that could work too. Very tricky concept. The player character might have to talk to themselves in game so that the rest of the player characters go, what the hell are you doing? And the characters, well, can't you hear the thought? And then they share the thought. What would be interesting is if then those player characters also started to hear the voice when that's when it's speaking. Honorable 596, how would you handle a lich who specialized in transmutation alongside necromancy? Alternatively, what would the transmutation version of a lich be? I would immediately say that the transmuted version of a lich would be a living entity. I would look at something like perhaps Castle Grayskull. The spirit of Grayskull occasionally spoke to He-Man and certainly spoke to the Sorceress. Was the castle a living entity? Was it a lich in its own right? Some mad wizard who'd figured out that they could achieve immortality by permanently living inside a structure? That certainly could work, and I think that would fit with a transmuter who transmutes themselves literally from living flesh into a stone structure that would last forever. A speaking mountain might be another idea, you know. So there are some options there. There are some options there for you to explore. Infinite Wanderer said, how would you... Wait. That was Infinite Wanderer who asked that question. On behalf of Honourable 596, I think? I'm not sure. Another question from Honourable 596. Did the aquatic sea elf Moon Druid ever turn into an aquatic animal? No, she didn't. And we had lots of conversations, Myri and I, about what could she turn into. And when she tried to turn into land creatures, she had difficulty, if you recall. She had to try and find land creatures that she could turn into. And so when she used to turn into a bear, she used to turn into a teddy bear. If you listen to her descriptions, it was always with a funny nose and a button for a nose or something along those lines and a cross eye. So yes, it was a lot of fun that we had with trying to figure out what she would and what she wouldn't know and would have read about would be the other thing as well. That's the other important thing to bear in mind there. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It really was a lot of fun trying to figure out how to do that, basically. So yes, where are we? Okay. Next question. Filda Pipe says, how do you encourage better note-taking from your players? I'm having problems with my players forgetting everything from important plot points to not talking to NPCs to find out where to go. It's a tough one. It really is a tough one. Now, the biggest challenge that you have here is that your players don't feel the need in order to write anything down. This is a player problem, and there are two ways of addressing it. One is you could penalize them and say, well, you don't remember it. So, and no, you can't make a wisdom roll. And no, your character doesn't remember it, even though the player does. Where does that come from? Why are you then playing your character? If your character has a separate memory bank, it should have its own autonomous stuff. In which case, I'm not going to play with you. I'm going to play with your character. So if the player doesn't take notes, tough luck. Have your NPCs engage with them, and if they don't say anything, then let them stand. It's difficult. It really is difficult. The better option, as far as I'm concerned, is before the session starts, is to say, listen, you guys don't take notes. And to be perfectly honest with you, I have a problem with that. I feel that every session I have to remind you of everything that's going on, and I don't feel comfortable doing that anymore. So if you're not going to take notes, I'm not going to make notes, and then we can just roll dice and play a board game, as a matter of fact. Sometimes you have to just be open and honest with your players and just say, guys, why aren't you taking notes? Oh, it's too much effort. Okay, well, that's too much effort for me to create the game as well. So let's play some board games, let's play card games, let's go watch a movie. I often find that players get very relaxed when the DM starts to do more work than they should. It is not your responsibility to keep notes of what the players should know. It is not your responsibility that when the players say, oh, I've forgotten, but my character would remember. Not your problem. It is entirely up to the players, and if they're not going to invest in the game, if they're not going to take notes, well then it's time for you to play a game that doesn't require them to take notes. That's my opinion. But I'm getting old, and the older you get, the less compromising you get, I guess. I don't know. Right, so let's see. Next question. Marcus says, I'm trying to make the main characters in my campaign real. I'm trying to make the just develop that question for me a little bit, please, Marcus. Just unpack it a bit more, explain it a little bit more. You're trying to make the main characters in your campaign real. I'm not sure. Just think about that one for a little bit. Another question. I've come up. This is from Honorable 596. I've come up with a monster that is a walking gallows platform. Interesting. The first corpse on the platform has to be a caster, and the monster uses the caster spell list. The platform can also collect other bodies and add them to the gallows, gaining their actions and spell slots. One of each per body up to a maximum of 5. What are your thoughts? I think it's an interesting idea. What I want to know is who created it in the first place. This is an animated object with a certain amount of necromancy involved in it. I think it's a good idea. The challenge is, if you kill the bodies, does it lose its powers? Do you then have to burn the gallows down? How do you defeat it? Does it have immunity? Is there resistance because it's a wooden structure? How much of it is going to be monster-like? Those kinds of things. Again, the challenge is, and this is another video that's coming up on the channel in the next couple of weeks, Resurrection. If someone becomes part of this gallows creature, it consumes them, and they are killed again as part of this gallows monster. Are they resurrectable as the gallows monster, or are they resurrectable as their original character? Some interesting questions come out of that one. I think it's a great idea to have this live monster that collects things. It is very animated though, so make sure that fits within your world. Adric Langsmith says, I'm trying to build a game where the adventure for the players is a journey of apotheosis. I'm not sure that they're picking up the clues that this is possible. How can I bring this back? Well, I would say that whenever you're trying to get players to pick up on a thread or on a notion or a theme or anything along those lines, apotheosis in this case, how do you make sure that they pick up on it? Sometimes it needs to be a blunt force in the face type of revelation. Have NPCs come along and go through the process, go through the change that you're trying to get them to be aware of, trying to get them to see what's going on, so that you can get to the point where they go, oh, okay, so this is capable, this could possibly be something that we do. Sometimes it just needs to be said in that kind of manner. Other times you find this ancient tome, and in it describes the process that a character needs to go through to achieve transcendence or to achieve enlightenment or to achieve whatever it is that you want them to realize that they can achieve. So that would be my immediate answer to that one. Okay, Marcus is back. I'm trying to make my characters in my campaign to realize that they're working for the main antagonist, but I'm not sure how to plot it out interestingly. Okay, so you're dealing with a mentor antagonist. Now, I've done a lot of videos where we talk about the different types of villains, the different types of nemesis. The mentor is the one where the players start by working for the nemesis and then realize halfway through that the nemesis is the bad guy. The most important thing that you can do, Marcus, is to make sure that you are definite, that you have established that this individual is the antagonist by dropping clues every now and again. Just drop a little clue, and then you can go from there. Sometimes it might be the person meeting with a shady character. Sometimes it's someone who they found with blood on their hands and they deny it, and then there's a murder that's discovered later on. So little clues, little clues, and then when they reveal themselves to be the antagonist, the players will go, oh yes, we saw that coming. Okay, good, we know where we stand now. We can go and kill this person who has been such an evil creature. Dracone says, as I know you're working on a campaign setting, should I give the setting its own deities? If so, how should I go about it? Well, giving your own setting gods, yes, the Campaign Creator series, we actually deal with the god creation space in a little bit of detail when trying to come up with your own gods. The bottom line is you have to figure out what their function is. In most cases, the gods that I have seen anyway in existing campaigns are often there simply as a bit of background fluff. There isn't a huge amount in terms of their impact directly in the game. In the olden days, if characters didn't worship their gods correctly, the DM was encouraged to punish them as a result. remove powers, give them a black mark, etc., etc., etc. That's kind of moved away, and it seems to be less of an impact. I like my gods to be directly involved in the world because they have the power to do so. A lot of role-playing games, there are powerful beings because they have the gods' powers. They have divine power. So why wouldn't they be more involved? That's my personal opinion. So I would definitely push that. That whatever gods you create, make sure that they are involved and why they are involved as well. That's something to, I think, look at. Now, we will return. I see there was a question about creative writing this week. We will return to the creative writing as soon as we go back to the 2-hour time slot, which I'm hoping will be in the next couple weeks. It's just that I really haven't had a huge amount of time since getting back from the US to prepare for the Descent into Avernus campaign game, and although I always say we'll do a lot of stuff on the fly, which is indeed true, that is what I will be doing, it's a lot of back-end stuff that you don't see, all of the graphics in the background, all that kind of stuff takes time to prepare, and so that's what I'm stealing time from this show to do. So yes, definitely bear that in mind. Writing Machine 123 says, what green screen program do you recommend for your very first YouTube video? Well, I go with OBS. It's free. You can download it. OBS 23.2.1 is the version I'm currently using, and it does an amazing job. I could wax lyrical about green screen technology. Remember, I used to work in television, where in the olden days green screen was a complete nightmare because it was so difficult to get it to work properly. Nowadays I'm doing it in a little studio for less than $200. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Panda Frame says, what makes for a reasonable dividing line for world building versus world description at the table? I find I can always make more in the world, adding more adventure hooks. Is there a set number of hooks that you establish for any particular area? Panda Frame, it's an interesting question that you ask, and I would be very reluctant to say yes, 5 hooks per area. What I would suggest is throw out hooks. Just throw out adventure hooks. The ones that players choose to go on are the ones that you pursue. I have in the past had it where my players have gone, oh my goodness, there are so many things going on, we can't do all of these. So it's a fine balance. Listen to your players. Oh, there's this adventure that gets us to go into the mine, but remember, we also have that adventure to go to the forest. Oh, and remember, there's also helping out the little old lady with the sticks, and then there's an adventure with the dog, and then oh my goodness. So what I do at that point, where you realize you've thrown out too many, is then you tie them together. So the dog that they are supposed to be finding is actually down the mine with all the sticks that the little old lady needed them to collect. So you're wrapping up 2 of them. You are wrapping up 2 of them. You're bringing 2 or 3 together. If there's too much, it's too much. It's just be aware. Too much is a good place. Too little is a bad place. When the players are going, yeah, let's look for plot because nothing is happening, that's when you're in a bad place. Then you need to start putting out those hooks. Let them rather have too many than too little. Okay, now we get to Elizabeth Russell. Says 2 out of 3, or 2/3 of my players, won't give me actual feedback when I ask. Don't worry, Elizabeth, you're not alone. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong until they're really upset. How do I get better feedback before they're mad? Well, okay, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's going on here. If your players don't give you feedback, but they keep coming back to your table to carry on playing your game, you're doing it right. If your players come back to the table and then suddenly say, you always do this, why are you doing this, blah, 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 and they start attacking you, it's because they have bad social graces. They are uneducated, uncouth individuals who don't know how to resolve any kind of social conflict in a meaningful way. This is not a fault of yours. When people get angry at you for doing something and they have not told you in any shape or form beforehand, it's their problem, not your problem. So always bear that in mind. If someone shouts at you, they're shouting at you because they don't know how to express themselves properly. So I know it can be difficult when someone is shouting at you and you have to accept what they're saying. My advice is to never answer back. Listen to what they say, understand what they're saying. When you answer back, do not answer back with a defense, do not answer back with a counter, do not answer back with a but. Answer back with questions that help you understand where they're coming from. So if they say, you're a bad DM because your NPCs are always evil and I hate them. Okay. It is time for you to reflect. Are your NPCs always evil? Well, perhaps they are. Interesting. Okay. You could answer back by saying, is it that they don't work with you that is frustrating, or is it that they try to betray you all the time? What causes your frustration with the NPCs? Let them explain and expand, because sometimes the first sentence that comes out of their mouth is said in an emotional outburst rather than something that's said in a logical way. So then they can say, oh, I don't care, they're just always negative and they always attack us and they always have a hidden agenda. Aha, so it's not the fact that they're always evil, because that doesn't necessarily help. It's the fact that they always have a hidden agenda and that they always try to manipulate the party. Now that's a much more useful thing to act upon. Hopefully they've said this at the end of the session or in the middle of a session, whereupon you can say, I absolutely understand what you're saying. Turn to the rest of the party and ask them, do they feel the same? Is there something else that they would like to voice about your NPCs? Don't agree, don't disagree, don't say anything other than asking other people questions. Don't be defensive about it. Make sure that your body language is open. So don't sit like this and go, is there anything else that's wrong with my NPCs? Look at that body language. It's so aggressive. Open arms. Lean. Don't lean forward. You're intimidating. Lean and say, well, anybody else have any other things about the NPCs so that I can look at this whole thing and I can understand and my NPCs can become better? Try and understand the problem rather than attack the problem or defend against the problem. And it's tough. I've often sat here and ground my teeth when players have said, oh, I don't like this or I don't like that. You have to go, well, let me reflect. Let me think about that. But I'm not going to answer straight away. I'm never going to try and say, oh, no, well, of course you're wrong. I hate the way that you play as well. So nah. That's not the point. The point is they're raising it about a specific thing. Understand that thing first and then go from there. That's if they're doing that. If they're not giving you feedback and they keep coming back and they're always smiling and happy and no one's making excuses as to why they can't make the game, then you're doing it right. And that's the feedback that they're giving you, is that. Alternatively, WhatsApp is your friend, or Line, or whatever social media communication you use. Ask them individually. Ask them, did they enjoy the game? Ask them what they liked about the game. Sometimes it's the way we ask those questions. If we say, what didn't you like about the game? What can I do better? It is requiring them to give judgment upon you. Whereas if you ask them the question, hey, what did you like about today's game? Did you like today's game? That then is about them answering for themselves, and that works a little bit better, I think, sometimes. So there we are. Bear that in mind. We've got 3 minutes. 3 minutes? How did it go so quickly? I really want to go back to these 2-hour sessions, but I just don't have the time. I really don't have the time. Okay, next few questions. James Tension says, I don't currently own any Dungeons & Dragons books. Do I need any of those to use the Ghost of Saltmarsh book? James, yes. Yes, I would... If your players need to create characters, they can create characters using something like D&D Beyond, for example. You can use the book as the Dungeon Master to run rules and things. There are some rules that you're going to have to look up, but fear not, you can go to the Wizard's website where if you download the SRD or the OGL license, the SRD license, the OGL license, is all of the rules in the game at the moment that they have allowed to be released publicly. So you could go there and look for answers. The book is very complete, though, in terms of the adventures and that sort of thing. And if you don't play Dungeons and Dragons, but if you play something else, for example, I'm trying to think of a completely different system. If you play Traveller, or if you can adapt what's in the book very, very easily. The different types of adventures and things that are there are going to be, they're really good. They're really, really, really good. So yes, I don't think you need the books. If I was you, maybe look at getting a subscription to Fantasy Grounds, where you can then get the books in Fantasy Grounds. That might be more practical if you don't play around the table, if you play online, and you can read through the books at your leisure that way. So yes, definitely think about that one. Last question before we go is from Xander the Green. He says, are you left-handed or ambidextrous like me? I'm curious. I am a lefty, definitely left-handed when I do have to write, but when I play tennis or squash, when I used to play tennis or squash, I'd love to go back to playing squash actually, then I'm ambidextrous. I don't do backhand, I just swap the racket from one hand to the other and then play back again. So there we are. Right, that's it for today. There's so many more questions coming through. I hope to see you again next week, Monday 6 p.m. Pacific time. We will be here and I will be answering your questions. We won't have a competition to get out of the way, so we will be able to just go straight into questions and answers and go from there. I might have another game to talk about. Let's see. Everyone seemed to like the way that I did the games during the live sessions, answering questions, unboxing the game, and talking about it. So there you are. Right. Until next time. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to everybody who participated in the competition. I really do appreciate it. Massive thank you to all of our sponsors. They gave so many wonderful, wonderful things. And to those of you who did win, congratulations. To those of you who didn't, you went on an amazing treasure hunt. And at the very least, you got a beautiful map drawn by Kaora himself. So until then, I wish all of you a fantastic week and an amazing weekend of gaming.